Hi, can you hear me okay? That's a GeoGIF. That's Denmark over there, and then there's Sweden on the right, and labels dancing around, they're actually ships. The size of the labels are defined in the data. It's based on how big the ships really are in real life, and a combination of speed, so there's like a nice dynamic look. The orientation of the label is defined by the real orientation of the ship, where it's actually going. And one might think, why? Why did you do this? That's a great question. I don't know myself. Does this add any value to anyone? Maybe not. But this is the kind of stuff I do. I think it gives a nice overview, and I will be showing a few more of this kind of confusing stuff. But I noticed that ships have nice names, like Color Fantasy. Hey. So I had a nice introduction already, but still I have this boring about me slide, sorry. So by day, I have a real work, and then outside of office hours, I have this fake work, why I'm here now. I'm currently on summer vacation from my real work. And yesterday, I also gained a new title. I realized, I've been thinking, what's my label? Who am I? I'm a xenocartographer. Thanks, Martin. So I do weird maps because I enjoy it, and because my background is in geography, and I worked in IT, and all of these things come together into a weird map making, and I have a portfolio too. So this fake work that I do, because I don't have any real clients, like really occasionally, but I do get some requests, but usually I don't want to, because I just do this for fun. But this fake work can be either data-driven, so I see on Twitter, like somebody posted that, hey, Danish marine something has this open data for GPS locations, and oh, hey, I need to do something with this. That was one. That's one source of how I start doing this. It can be either tool-driven. Somebody posts on Twitter, hey, I created this nice Python package for geospatial data, you should try it out, and then I go and try it out. Or even sometimes I even get ideas, like just a genuine idea, maybe, hey, is there geospatial data available on this topic? And then I do something, or attempt to do something. This comment was, once I posted one of those animations on Twitter, and this comment was very delightful. And I think it sums up what I want to do with my visualizations, making data sexy. Yeah, that's it. But I also like to annoy people, whether it be designers with wrong color choices, or whether it be IT people with stupid workflows or stupid GIFs. But I kind of like it when somebody gets annoyed. It's always good sign. It means that I'm doing something correct. And then, because I feel like we've had a few talks which touch geospatial stuff and maps, but still I feel like when I talk to people that I'm coming in from geospatial domain. But for people working in the geospatial domain, everyone have heard the phrase of one single company in there that 80% of all data is spatial. I think that's BS. It's nonsense. I think all data is somehow spatial, X's and Y's. If you find your way, you can always show it in a space somehow. And even though it would be 80%, I think 80% shouldn't be visualized on maps. So if you ever hear that phrase, don't believe it. But still, why geospatial stuff and maps is important, in my opinion. In general, people can understand maps pretty well. So, and if you look at your phones and look at the apps you have there, quite a lot of them have map as the basis of the UI. People can interact with maps. So that's why I think this is important, that there is also a map talk And traditionally, the GIS field has been somewhat separate from other data people and designers, and I think it's pretty stupid, and I have this naive wish that in the future we will all come together, and there will be also other GIS and geo folks here, and vice versa, in the geo conferences too. And also, most importantly, maps are cool, everyone likes maps. But then, a few words about the tools that I use. This highly informative infographic shows how, through trial and error, I usually work. The most important tool is QGIS, and when necessary, I write some Python, and then I have a PostGIS database, and I use GIMP. Previously, I've used Photoshop, but all of these are open source tools that I use in my work. This fake work, I mean. QGIS is a desktop software, and to my mind, it's the best desktop software currently out there. Recently, version 3.0 was released from QGIS, and when I was in university, I had one course on QGIS, and I was thinking, this is the crappiest software I've ever used, really unstable, I'll never use this. But then years passed, and all of a sudden there's a wide coder base, and people are developing it really actively, and how fast it progresses, it's amazing. But basically, my advice to anyone who's has data on their laptop with X's and Y's coordinates or something, don't write your own code to change the format. Don't write your own code to change the coordinate system or something. Use QGIS. There are a lot of good open geospatial tools out there for you. Even though you would be good in maths, it doesn't make sense to start writing our own coordinate transformation algorithms. You can do it if you wish, of course. All of us have pretty weird ambitions. But with QGIS, you can basically do static, but also interactive visualizations. And I work quite a lot with the plugins it offers. Like Time Manager, you will see a lot of that stuff. Yes, there's 3GS. You can export maps to 3GS, to leaflet, to open layers. And we had a talk today about OpenStreetMap, and you can actually download OpenStreetMap data with QGIS. I've done 3D printing data with it, and yeah, I've heard like 90% of the people do D3 stuff. Yeah, you can also export D3. And what I usually do is I use QGIS to do the basic stuff, then I export it, and then I hack around with the end result. So that's what I recommend also you to do. Python I mainly use for scraping data and cleaning data and moving it around. I only code when it's necessary because I'm not really a coder. I've taught myself enough Python to get along in these visualizations. But one thing I'm really interested is how QGIS is built on Python, and you can really easily extend it and maybe build your own plugins. But in general, you want to make pretty maps, you don't need to code. That's one of the things I want to highlight. The world already has enough bad code, so let's not write anymore. And then PostGIS. So I don't think I've heard a lot of talks covering anything about databases here, but in general, I feel like the databases are the unsung heroes of data visualization. So everyone wants to do the front-end stuff, but is it really necessary to bring all the 20 million points to the browser? Why not clean the data a bit more and analyze it a bit more in the database? Just an idea. Of course, it doesn't work always, but just an idea. And PostGIS is a spatial extension of Postgres. So that means that you can do spatial operations like analyze intersections or do buffers or this kind of stuff really fast and easy. And I would even say that knowing SQL is more beneficial in geospatial stuff than knowing basic coding. And sometimes people, like non-techie people, ask, so what is the role of a database really? Like, why do I need one? And then I usually say that, have you ever tried opening 2 million lines of data in Excel? And then they might understand. But then, on to the main topic. I've been discussing with people quite a lot how to pronounce Geogiffery. That's how I pronounce it. A Finn would pronounce it Geogiffery, and I've also heard a version Geogiffery, but I'll go with Geogiffery. The theory behind animated maps. By the way, I found this really nice font from PowerPoint, so I thought that the theory part is really boring, so I wanted to use this to lighten it up. So basically, before tech or before the web, you could already show movement or stuff like that on maps, but it was much more difficult. Now that we have technology has enabled us to do animations. But it's pretty easy, but there are a lot of limitations. I'll show you, almost all the examples are mine, but some of them are good and some of them are bad. We already heard much more professional talk about visual perception, so I'm not going to go too into that, but I actually made some research. This is like a real PhD thesis based on just on animated maps. But you can easily block the whole animation with too much information. But I think those last 3 points are the most important ones. So if it's really long, people get lost in it. If it's really, if the geometries move here and there without any logical pattern, it becomes unreadable. And if the geometries in general, if they, well, you'll see soon. But one thing to consider is when I talk about maps showing animations on different times, is that map always has a temporal extent. So a static map is always a snapshot of a certain point in time. But what are these good for? I have a few categories for the stuff that I've been spamming on Twitter during the late year or so. So first, and I would say most importantly, is the way to display movement with animated maps. Sorry, that was all the text pretty much, no more Comic Sans, so more pictures. This is ship traffic, more ships. This is on the Gulf of Finland between Helsinki and Tallinn, and the ships going to the right, they're going to St. Petersburg. Some designers might think, oh no, there's way too much information, I cannot decode the values, the colors are all wrong. But I personally think that it gives a, I don't know if it's excellent, but pretty good overview on how much, when I had this data in the database, I was collecting it from the API, I had no clue how much traffic there is. This is 24 hours of traffic on the Gulf of Finland. So once I finished this animation, I was really surprised how congested it is. The colors actually show the home country of the ship. So no, I'm not going to go there. Then I made a custom one. I wanted to do something for the conference. So I loaded 30 gigabytes of flight GPS data, and that's actually Paris. And all of those are planes. This is 2 hours of plane traffic above Paris. So you see above, and the size of the circle is representing how high the planes are. But this is one of those bad examples. I wanted to do something really nice, but I think this is way too much. You can see the airport there, how planes are moving really like in an organized manner, and then that's pretty much it. But I don't know. I'll give this 2 stars out of 5. Then more, I would say, a better way to visualize flight data. So this is a week worth of flights from Brazil. So I found this data set about like origin and destinations in Brazil, and the start time and the end time. So in PostGIS, I created simple lines between the starting and the end points, and then with QGIS Time Manager, I created this animation. So also, it's hard to decode single things from there, but you get a nice overview. And one single frame, this is roughly 300 frames looping. So one single frame is 1 hour, if I remember right. But one pattern you can see is when it's night, there's no flights inside Brazil. Then you see the long-haul flights flying around. And also you can see that how unconnected Brazil is with the rest of South America, which was surprising to me. Then some heartbeat. This is isochrones. These are different US cities. The top left is Miami, and bottom right is Seattle, and then all the Americans can argue which is which. So this is isochrones, so this shows driving time from the center of each city and how far you can reach in 1 hour. And why are they beating like that? It's because it shows 24 hours, so the minimum size is the peak traffic hour, and then the biggest during the night, of course, you can drive further. Informative? Not really, but I did it anyhow. Accessibility in general, I think it's one, I consider it as a sub-genre inside movement. So there's one area which I think animations work pretty well. And this is one example of that. So this starts from my house, and it shows, it compares bicycle travel, public transportation, and car to everywhere in Helsinki. And on the top left, you can see how it starts at 4 o'clock, and then on shorter distance, bike is best, but then cars quickly surpasses it, and public transport is pretty weak to the furthest points. But this is the kind of thing, I had seen this data set before. This is made by the University of Helsinki, the Geography department. They have pre-calculated the data set, so I had a lot of CSVs, which I then fiddled around in PostGIS and QGIS and made this. I had seen heat maps before made with the same data, but I think this is one of those better experiments, I would say. Then simply showing things in sequence is another category where animations work pretty well. This was in a news piece by the Finnish public broadcasting company. It shows how the ice sheet or the sea ice is melting around the North Pole. So it's not the best, I'd say, because like we've already heard about visual perception. And I showed in the theory part, which you probably lost because of the Comic Sans. It's really hard to remember the previous frame, especially as it's not shown there. But because it starts all over again, the most surprising part in this is my mind when it starts all over again. Then you realize, oh, it was so far south, considering Helsinki, Finland. But yeah, this I'll give 3 stars. Out of 5 for this. Then, yeah, it is working, although it's pretty slow. This is buildings from Madrid. There's a year running on top left. I've done a similar thing for quite many cities where I've found suitable data. And here you can see how the city grows slowly. So they appear on the map simply on the year when they were built. Then this is, I think, the only one which hasn't been made by me. It's made by Alex Del Rey. You can find him on Twitter. He does similar kind of stuff. And this is also a GIF, but it's, let's say, more informative and slightly with a different aspect than the ones that I was showing. And then a few weirder stuff. In general, cartographers hate cartograms. This is showing UK and how the population is population in relation to the area. So if it's just a cartogram with really distorted geometries, it fails usually to deliver the whole message. But I think in an animation way, this works really well. You can see the real geometries and then how they compare in a really fast manner. Then this is countries of the world rotating. Yeah, I just wanted to train like how to get data to PostGIS with Python, and then I tried rotating. Sorry. Then how to, like, I already presented the tools, but as you've seen, the data is the key in these. So if the data is bad, the animations don't work. Like I partly blame in the poor flight GIF the data because it isn't really good. But all of these are made with QGIS Time Manager or QGIS Atlas. So basically the process is I have data with locations and timestamps, then I export PNGs, and then I stitch them into a GIF. And if your data is poor, you will spend most of the time in the non-interesting stuff. But there are a few tutorials. You can find this from my website, for example. But now probably most of you are thinking the big elephant in the room is that you want interactivity, and I'm making GIFs. So there's like I don't know. Like I've considered them as a lower value thing, and when I was working in IT, people were saying, "Oh, you're making GIFs? Why not make a proper application or a JavaScript thing that you can put on the browser and everybody can click around?" Yeah, I understand the point, but I'm now trying to be for GIFs, to support GIFs. If you think how nice idea it is that I have like gigabytes of data and all of a sudden it's in a 5 kilobyte GIF, and it still gives you a good overview of the data. It's pretty nice. They work on websites. They work on all browsers, including IE. They work on mobile. And it's been pretty much similar for the last 30 years. So I think that's worth something. And if you think how they're used nowadays in social media, we can really see the value there. I don't know, value? I don't know. We can see how popular they are. And this was also in my title. I just realized it later that I also promised to show other experimental ways to visualize geospatial data besides GIFs. Well, I've done something. So this is actually made by with OpenStreetMap data. So a few years ago, some of you might have seen the Roads to Rome project by Movil Lab. So I got the idea from there, but I wanted to do the process myself. So this is one starting point, the center of the contiguous US, and then the routes go to all counties. Of course, I've done also an animated version of this, but I wanted to show something else for a change. And I really like, in general, in the stuff I do, how stuff look organic all of a sudden. I find that really fascinating, like people moving, or this looks like electricity or veins or something. I've been experimenting with typography, so text, visualizing text on maps. So that's hurricanes, and they might look like lines, but actually it's only text. And the size of the text is relative to the wind speed of the hurricane. This is similar to the isochrone I showed from the US, but a static version. So it's European cities compared. Well, one of those things, not sure if it's like, it looks nice. It's on the border of being an infographic and a map. I don't know. You tell me, you're the designers. Would somebody do something with it? I don't know. But yeah, I've also done interactive stuff. This is population of Europe in 3D. So I'm really interested in misusing tools in general. So this is done with a QGIS plugin that's used for terrain mapping. So if you have a raster with height data, you can do like nice 3GS thingy. But I had population data in raster, so I thought, well, that might look nice. And it did. This is also, you can find also a link to this on my website. Paris looked like Sauron's tower or something. Then, conclusions. People want conclusions, always. First set of conclusions. I'm not sure how I feel about GIFs. I really, yeah, it's a love-hate thing. But maybe it's more on the love side, I guess. Like I said, they work really well on social media. Even though the uglier ones I post, people tend to be pretty excited about them. And I think in general, people are pretty lazy. Like, many people might like it that they just browse and it's already processed for you, all the data in there. You just have to sit back and enjoy. You don't have to do the interactivity. I don't know. Just a thought. But in general, yeah, more conclusions. If you want to go into geospatial stuff, just download QGIS and play around with it. You have CS with X's and Y's. You can figure it out, definitely. And dare to right-click. You don't always need to code. Use the tools somebody else has made for you. Like I consider somebody wiser than me has made for you. Just use them. And there's a secret that the geospatial people don't really like to tell to others, but seriously, the spatial stuff, it isn't really special. Anyone can sort it out. Thanks a lot.